Hey everyone, welcome to Going Overboard with Captain Overkill. Today I am working on the Suzuki DF60A 2013 model, and I just want to go over a couple points that are important. What we're doing is we're changing the water impeller. Going to open it up, take it out, and I'm already jumped ahead, but I'll explain everything I've done and point it out quickly to you here. So here we go. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so here we are. I've already got it, the lower end unit off where the impeller is. But I'm going to talk about how I quickly did that. It's not too difficult. Took me a little bit to figure out, but just so you guys are aware, on the 2013 model for the Suzuki DF60A, there are only 6 bolts to take out that are easy on the sides, 3 on each side. There is none back in this area here under the, let's see if I can show it here. There's none under in this area here at all to take out any bolts. Just the 3 on each side for this model. So that's something to keep in mind. There is the water impeller underneath there. That's the pump itself, but we're gonna open it up and look at the impeller. Get the lower unit off. As I said, there's only 6 bolts. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we just detached this cable from this screw right there, and we'll put that back on once we actually, you know what, we didn't have to undo that really. There I did something extra that I didn't even need to do, and I didn't realize it, but I thought I had to do it. So that attaches right here, so it didn't actually come off with the unit. So we obviously had to disconnect right here the drive. That's not the drive shaft, but the shift shaft. That'll shift that into gear and out of gear. And we had to detach that with a number 10 wrench, and then I just had another helping wrench to go with it. But there's my number 10. So that's what I used to get that off, and I made sure that I only turned the top part. I didn't turn the bottom part, and you'll see later on, maybe if I'll actually go to it right now. This here, I put some tape on it to keep that bolt in place, or that nut in place, sorry, and that we don't lose the spot. And I also marked it with a marker so I know the position. And with a camera these days, you just take a quick picture of it as well, helps out. So now I'm going to venture into the water pump housing there and change the impeller. One more interesting note, I don't believe that the shifting shaft here, there it is, I'll zoom in on it there. I don't believe that right here comes off on this engine, because if you look up and follow it, it follows all the way up through this tube, and then you can kind of see it right there. And if I wiggle the bottom of it, we're over here, okay? See how if I wiggle it? Now that's at the bottom I'm wiggling it, but if you follow it, it goes right up into here. And that doesn't look like it just comes off or has splines or anything. So that shifter cable, or that shifter shaft, is definitely, I don't think comes out. So we're just going to leave it in there. Normally if there was one, it would come out and you'd have splines on it and you would lube it as well. But as far as I know, I'm going to go with a no on this one. So one thing to watch out for, we're going to put a little grease in here afterwards. This is a little ring. That's a little rubber ring right there, and or grommet or whatever. And that's going to connect up top. So don't lose that. In case it falls off or anything else, keep an eye on it. Okay, while we're doing this, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly use a little brush, clean off salt deposits, stuff like that. It's pretty clean around here. And next I'm going to take off and loosen and take off these 4 nuts here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this housing should start to move and pop off here. Later on I'll make sure that I obviously lube the or grease the splines, and we'll put everything back together with proper gear. Alright, so I took off the housing now and exposed the impeller. There's the housing over here. There's just the 4 nuts on there. I have marked them in the order which I took them off, just in case, which order I'll put them back on, etc. The housing itself looks pretty beautiful. I'll clean it up still and put a new, there's a ring around here. I will put a new one of those on, and then put a new impeller on, and I think I even have a new gasket for underneath this plate. So we'll see how far we get. I'll clean up the bolts there. But there she is. That's what you can see the curvature. So I wasn't pumping water as good as I could have, that's for sure. And my new one, as you'll see when I put it on, I'll film it, and they're straight. They're not curved. We're starting to move the impeller up just with a little screwdriver, pried it up underneath, and you can see right here, there's a key here. We're going to swap that out for a new key and pull this off, take the key out, and we'll go from there. Very important tidbit is that when you pull it off, you see that's where the key fits, right there where my thumb is. There's a little bit of a takeout hole there. Well, on the other side, it doesn't exist. And this is the top. That'll be the bottom, because that has to slide onto the key. So keep that in mind as well. Taking off the plate, I'll clean that up. And you can see there's a gasket on the back. I have a fresh one, so I'll probably put that on. And here's what it looks like underneath. And I'll clean up that area there as well, a little bit of that crud. And then we'll reassemble. Alright, so now that we have everything clean, as best we can there, I'm going to start replacing said parts. And here's my other parts, the impeller, a little bit of the gasket there, and then the key is in that brown paper bag there. One step at a time. As we move along, we got the plate on. The gasket's underneath. We got the plate on, and it's nice and cleaned up. And we got the key in now. And I tilted the key just a little bit inwards on this end so that the impeller goes on smoothly, and it'll hopefully just snap into place. So I'll do that. Water impeller is now in place. The key is in the right spot. And we're ready to do a little bit of grease on the edges of the impeller to help smooth things out. Alright, I've applied some grease, waterproof grease, to the tips of the blades there. And next I'm going to put on the housing here. And then as I'm putting on the housing, if I need to, I'm just going to turn this clockwise to help seat those blades into the housing here. Alright, so the housing's back on. Put a little grease right in here so it slides on nicely. And now I'll grease up the bolts here that are sticking out, and then apply the nuts and tighten everything down to spec. Yeah, this has been an interesting, oh, and then we'll grease up here the splines before we put this all back together. Alright, so once the everything was lubed up, I slid the drive shaft up back into the motor, and now I'm about to connect the shift shaft there. Yeah, and the water impeller is done, and everything's slid in nicely, and hopefully reverse, forward, and neutral will all work, and all the splines lined up once I greased them as well and lubed them up. Not lube, but greased. And I also did the nipples. I've done another video on that before, on lubing up or greasing the nipples. These guys right here, you can check out the other video on how to do that, and there's 2 more up front of the steering column, or up in the front here, in the front of the engine. Anyways, so that wraps that up. I've got 2 bolts in right now, and I made sure I put grease on those as I put them in. I've reconnected this wire, which I actually didn't have to disconnect in the first place. And once I reconnect this and put in the rest of the bolts, it'll all be done. I'm still figuring out the foot-pounds or whatever for the torque, but I think it's 40. I will double check that. Don't quote me on that. I am not an expert. And hopefully you've enjoyed or seen how not too hard this is to change the water impeller on the DF60A, or sorry, yeah, Suzuki DF60A. Great engine, love it. It's treated me well. Salt water used anyways on the ocean, west coast of Canada. All right, as I brought up earlier, the shift cable is now connected. Wasn't sure how tight to do that, but it worked out well. And this job of changing the water impeller is now done. I can go ahead and put on the prop, and I have another video for that. If you've never changed a prop, you can check that out in my playlist for going overboard with Captain Overkill. And next I can put everything back together. I'll do a bit more maintenance, but anyways, talk to you later.